Hi everyone, welcome back to my No Buy Year. In today's video, I'm going to be pondering the question of whether all of this consumer landscape has been created due to our own existential crisis. So I have a quote of the day to share that I discovered in a Pursuit of Wonder video. That's my latest kind of YouTube content hole that I've fallen into, the channel Pursuit of Wonder. And in one of their videos, I think it'll be on my playlist of videos that inspire me, I'll also try to link it up here, I came across the quote from H.P. Lovecraft, and I'll read it now. "The sciences, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed us little, but someday the piecing together of dissociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and of our frightful position therein, that we shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age." So when I saw this quote, heard this quote in the video, it really shone a light on what humans might be doing, why humans might be behaving the way they are regarding the consumerist landscape. Why it seems like the frenzy of buying things, of sharing things to buy, of constant showing and telling of the latest new great thing, and people then making their living from doing this online, and that being such an okay, condonable, rampant part of online media, it really kind of makes sense, in my mind at least, that this could be a response of collective humanity to our own growing scientific knowledge and understanding of the world at large, and this could all just be all of us expressing our existential crisis, right? Our way of coping with the knowledge that perhaps all of this is meaningless, there's no purpose, and when it's over, it's over. And I'm not trying to make a comment on any religious beliefs or beliefs of what happens after we pass and any of that. So this is not supposed to be that kind of video. This is just a reflection on consumer culture and perhaps how it all stems from this unifying human issue. And when we have reached a point of modern society, of advancement, where we're no longer confronted every day with the struggles of survival, right? We're no longer consumed with the need to find and hunt and prepare food for most hours of the day. We have a level of convenience in being able to go to the grocery store. We have people who are specialized in food production so that not everybody has to use so much of their time doing that. We have greater pursuits, I guess I should put that in quotes, because not every pursuit of humanity is indeed a greater one as far as opinions at large. But, you know, we have areas of humanity devoted to space study, ocean study, the study of the human body. These things were not areas of study that existed in years past, and nor was the current consumerist climate. So I do think that in some ways that Lovecraft quote really hits home for me, because as we find out more and more, as we kind of are served more, sometimes we're served these articles of doom in our news feeds, wherever we read the news or on the social media feeds, wherever people share. I recently had an episode of my own health crisis, and one of the interesting things that illuminated for me was that it actually, in some ways, doesn't really matter if I think my time is limited. I might still be living in the habits of debauchery that I've become used to and have used to enable my own happiness and feeling better in the past. I'm trying to improve in this regard. There are some things that I do have the thought that if I never got to do before my time was up, I would regret. So I'm trying to put more energy into those activities. I'm trying to reorder my priorities so that I don't spend more time on things that aren't truly important, or that I wouldn't regret not doing if my time was to be up tomorrow, for example, or, you know, in 5 years, let's just say, because, you know, I can't accomplish that much by tomorrow, but within 5 years, I could make progress on some of the goals that I have that I would regret if I never attempted. But anyway, when I think about many of the consumer behaviors that we see in modern society on modern social media. And I'm not saying everybody lives like this. I'm just saying that the trends are there. And, you know, if you've been in the reaction video community on YouTube, you know, you've seen some creators shining the spotlight on these trends. I'm not really at the stage of shining the spotlight directly myself, but I do like to engage in a critical conversation with you on here, you know, face to face, so we can kind of think through these ideas without having the stimulus of it right in front of us at this stage. While we're going to be speaking hypothetically today, you can kind of imagine some of the trends that I'm speaking of, that I'm talking about, when I say that it really does feel like some of this must be motivated by some deep sense of unrest within our souls as a human collective, or perhaps having a lack of means to cope with this kind of idea that one day will be permanently forgotten. One day everybody we know will no longer be here. One day there might just be an endless expanse of nothingness, and that is our existence. And I just don't know that the means for coping with these thoughts, these somewhat disturbing thoughts, depending on the time of day, right? Sometimes you could be kept up at night thinking about these things as far as what is the purpose of all of this, and what is it like to experience eternity of possible nothingness. But I do think there's something to be said about how perhaps religion and religious beliefs are declining as far as how much people actually rely on these things, how much peace people feel that they get from these religious institutions these days. And then also our education of kind of contentment philosophy, I guess I would say, has not seemed to pick up in response to this, at least in my opinion. It seems like the most easily available solutions are what have taken over as far as convenient and quick and accessible sources of comforting oneself. Marketing has stepped in as a pillar of society to promise solutions to alleviate the problems we experience, even just in our own minds and in our own concept of a human existence. And we're not served the solutions or the path. The spotlight is not shown on the path to achieving contentment as much as I feel like we could be doing in our human society, if that makes sense. And I guess that's another one of the goals I have with my presence here, is to cultivate a life of contentment where I'm not constantly wanting things, browsing for things, pursuing the next thing, whether it's something to buy, something to do, something to strive towards. Even the sense of being more productive is something I'm trying to break up with in my own mind to have more value as a human myself. And even just now, speaking of the things I would regret not doing if I didn't get the time to do them before my time was up, I'm trying not to be too attached to those things either, so that if I don't get to do these things, my value or sense of worth or what I've accomplished during my time in existence here as a human is not dependent on something exterior. Right? So trying to walk that path myself, trying to get to the point where that is how I feel most of the time. And perhaps I will be able to show that in a way that helps others reach that point for themselves as well. A lofty goal, perhaps. Back to the concept of existential crisis and consumerism. It brings up the point for some people, at least perhaps, or, even the beliefs of hedonism would signal to me at least a little bit, the idea of why should we care about this? If we're just living for now, living for pleasure, if we don't know if existence even continues after we are not here, what is the point of being conscious in our consumerism? Why don't we just live it up for today? And first of all, I would argue that that's not the path of contentment and deep, true happiness. I think we're still trying to fill some kind of void within ourselves if we're constantly striving. So there's that. Second of all, I think our reasonable assumption based on the existence of history is that things as we know it will continue when we are no longer continuing. And it is our responsibility to ensure that the most people, the most humans, right, have the opportunities that we've had for existence. I mean, this kind of life is all we know. It's all we have for the time that we have it. And to possibly deprive others in the future of having that experience because of the urge to live it up or the thought that it doesn't matter. And ultimately, if a future life is cut short or non-existent because of actions of today, is a futile way of thinking. And if society as a collective thought that way in the past, and we knew about that, right? Like if we knew for some reason that the previous couple of generations set the world up to self-destruct in 5 years, I think we would be a little bit mad about that as the people that currently exist, right? So it only goes to follow that if we mess things up for future generations and they can trace that, they're not going to be that happy about it either. So, I mean, this is getting a little bit meta perhaps, but it's just an idea-provoking conversation to start with you today. Do you feel a sense of existential crisis driving your desires, driving your striving to want things, and driving your goals, your ideas, your motivations? Are you trying to distract yourself from the darker concepts of reality and existence? Do you feel the weight of the knowledge of the things that are unknowable about our human experience? Are you trying to lighten the load of that weight by doing fun, girly things and embracing that side of consumer culture? The lightness, the frivolity, the distractions, the constant distractions that are available if you're looking for them. And another thing about the nature of the distraction of consumerism is that it's not detrimental in a way to the physical being like other habits have been proven to be. So, for example, habits of drinking, of smoking, of drugs, of other substance abuse, or habits that make us unhealthier in our physical being are easier to pinpoint and try to step away from in my assessment of the situation because they are damaging in a way that we can prove, we can observe, we've got qualified specialists telling us or advising us. And I don't think the landscape is quite the same yet for consumerism of material goods, or even striving for an immaterial good that we can't necessarily reach, like a productivity goal. There's always a moving goalpost on having more or doing more. And while things like burnout culture and overconsumption are becoming more talked about issues, it's not yet at the point where we have this correlation, causation, whichever one it is. I'm not a scientific professional to prove that we should stop doing these things. It's kind of presented as a harmless, fun habit, or even a good habit as far as things like productivity are concerned, to increase your value as a human, the things you do, the impact you have in a positive way. Or as far as shopping is concerned, a fun, girly pastime, a harmless pursuit of possibly therapeutic goods, self-care and bonding with fellow members of society and communities that have the same stuff or follow the same trends, or even supporting humanity in a way by keeping the economy going. There's all sorts of narratives we can tell ourselves that highlight the positive aspects of consuming, producing, engaging in capitalist economy. Are all of these pursuits, the pursuits of wanting, striving, collecting, just a distraction from ever-present low levels of existential dread? I often wonder as well, is that the trigger cause for much of the anxiety, panic attacks, things like this that we experience as humans? And again, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't speak on these things from a professional lens, but I am curious about it, and I also feel like I don't really see it talked about in open discourse online. So allow me to begin that conversation here. I'm so curious as to what your thoughts are on this one, if you're here and if you've watched this video. Have you felt that as well? In my opinion, it's one of the few things that every single human has in common, right? It's one of the few realities of humanity that everybody is going to experience or has to grapple with, to varying degrees depending on how much of one's attention is directed at pure survivalist activities. And again, the argument being that if our attention is more focused on surviving, then we have less time to worry about the nature of existence. So is it almost a privileged problem? I don't know. All of this to say that I am still intending to have fun with my stuff. I'm not intending to never buy anything again. I'm not intending to become somebody that only views my wardrobe for practical purposes, for example, as my wardrobe has been a source of fun and joy. I'm about to film some wardrobe-centric videos after this one. So it's not that I'm completely eschewing the idea of consumerist fun or distraction from existential dread. And I don't view life as a constant distraction from this until we get to the end. That's not even remotely my worldview. But I do think that part of the solution to this aspect of the human experience that might be driving certain trends of consumerism, I can't say for sure whether it's a true cause, but I can speak to the fact that some of the thought processes in my journey of consumerism, I do think are a distraction. If it's true for me in some way, it might be true for someone else out there. But I do think the solution in ideal form comes through the contentment that we can achieve when we accept circumstances beyond our control. I think this is a principle of behavioral therapy, or therapy in general, is learning to accept the things that are beyond our control and focus on controlling the things that we can. So our own responses and things like that. So I think if we can seek out education that approaches this topic from a more reassuring lens. In fact, Like I was saying before, the Pursuit of Wonder YouTube channel has become a source of context for me in approaching these topics. And in some ways, the inevitability of all of these truths that, as we know about humanity, whatever our religious beliefs, we know our existence as we know it here on Earth, on this planet, in these human bodies, is not something that's forever. I do find that that channel has helped me contextualize these ideas in a way that's more reassuring, more unifying, more helpful, and not panic-inducing. So that's been a source of contentment education in my life recently that I thought I would like to share with any of my viewers. You can't buy your way out of an existential crisis. Nothing you buy will make you feel at peace with your own existence. Maybe that's going to be the title of this video. Maybe that's a way to contextualize this weird conversation with the goals of my channel. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, I'm very curious to hear any of your thoughts on this one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.